This is not a good look. No matter what corporate lingo and phrasing they use, Microsoft's Xbox division has spent too much money. They cut over 1,900 jobs in a big restructure back in January and are now closing down multiple studios that were part of a $7.5 billion deal. Yeah, they keep the IPs, but they're also looking to focus on fewer projects, so what we'll see out of the remaining ZeniMax studios will be limited, and I'm assuming it's going to be focusing on Elder Scrolls and Fallout, especially the latter considering the success of the TV show renewing and reinvigorating interest. I'm really surprised about Tango Gameworks, unique to Microsoft's repertoire, a Japanese developer. I heard they had multiple projects in their pipeline before Ghostwire released, and Hi-Fi Rush was a success by all their metrics. In contrast to its closure, Matt Booty, the Xbox Game Studios head, said they needed smaller and critically acclaimed games. I said as much in my last video about Square Enix. You need smaller projects that sell well to support the bigger stuff, and Tango seemingly were the ideal studio to do this. Which brings me to the other end of the budget spectrum, Activision. I still can't get over that price, $68.7 billion. I knew as soon as the deal went through we'd all be paying for it one way or the other. Despite the fact Activision Blizzard has an annual turnover of over $8 billion. Completion of the deal was done in October 2023, and many of us were curious to see what games would be dropping onto Game Pass. Many suspected older Call of Duties would be among the first after Microsoft updated the servers. Over 6 months later, the first and only game to my knowledge is Diablo 4, and today I read this article, so now I'm thinking, dropping first party games onto Game Pass day one hasn't financially worked out. Why else would they be hesitating so much with this big new purchase? If it did, this would be a no-brainer. Just like in the movie industry, they're all beginning to realize that streaming or on-demand, whatever you want to call it, is not as profitable as the business model they had before. At first it looked amazing, subscription figures climbing through the roof, fueled by lockdowns, the growth was exponential. Then lockdowns ended, people went back to their very busy lives and found out they didn't have time to watch Netflix Prime and Disney Plus, and so started cancelling. Sub figures dropped, and then the streaming services entered freefall because that lovely growth they saw 2 years ago has turned to recession. I think it's exactly the same here with Xbox. Game Pass was a tidy little earner in its earlier days. Access to the classics, a swath of indies, and the odd 1 or 2 year old AAA game. They made a big announcement of dropping first party titles day one, which probably worked really well at enticing loads of new subs. Then they went mad with the company credit card, buying up debs to fill the service, and then realised selling games for $12.99 a month wasn't as profitable as selling them at full whack. The gambit has failed. The cost is too high, and I think Game Pass should rescind. If they do go ahead and make it more expensive, people will bail. I know I don't get a lot of use out of Game Pass, and I haven't for a long time. The only game that gets played on Game Pass in my household is Minecraft, and that's only when my kids can tear themselves away from Roblox. In fact, sitting here, I'm thinking it would be cheaper to buy Minecraft and cancel my sub. I'm spending, £156 a year, and I haven't played a single game from it all year so far. Anyhow, as I said, what's coming out of Microsoft at the moment is not good publicity. Out in the console market, it is already the least popular, and there's a dedicated group of gamers quick to take pot shots at every opportunity, and I'm sure all this news will please them greatly as they caress their PlayStation 5s, assuring themselves they made the right decision. That yes, Xbox is dead. But I would like to remind everyone that only recently Sony had its own case of bad publicity when it U-turned against its own anti-consumer practice for the hit game Helldivers. I think the issue for Xbox in the West is that people see it as a typical big Western corporation. It's the greedy capitalist console, a rep not helped by them throwing billions of dollars to lap up studios and liquidate them. Whereas PlayStation is Japanese and so embodies the virtues of Japan, honour, respect and balance. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Sony and Microsoft are not so different in their goals, but the methods of execution. Sony are much tighter with the purse strings and cultivated a string of brilliant first-party games over many years, where Microsoft is doing basically the pay-to-win route. Anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter for now. As always, I appreciate you listening. I'm Parabellum, and this has been Opinionated.